Hey guys, this is Phil from education.com. So we're going to take a look at the Google Nexus 5X. This is built by LG and overall designed by Google, and it's been quite a while since they launched the 5X and the 6P. We've done the review of the 6P some time before, and here's the 5X. We're kind of late, so we're going to take an approach where we evaluate this guy on the price of right now. They're both selling at the Google store right now, so let's dive right in. So on the front, you got the display and the Full HD oleophobic coating, Gorilla Glass 3. But what you want to see over here is that the pair of speakers there, front and top and bottom. There are two speakers, but this guy is the only speaker that produces sound when you're listening to music or watching the video. And it sounds terrible, so you don't want to do anything with the built-in speaker of this lovely guy over there. And it's not the stereo speaker, so only this guy produces the sound. While I really like the location, it's facing you, the user, the quality is terrible. There's no SIM card tray, volume rocker, power key, USB Type-C, blah, 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 the basic things there. And there's a fingerprint reader built in, and they branded it as a Nexus imprint. It's there, it's pretty accurate, it's pretty fast. There is very fast. Nexus logo, LG logo, and that's pretty much it. We're not going to get into much of details at the phone. As the basics over here, it's got the Snapdragon 808 processor. It's a slightly downgraded version of the Snapdragon 810 with the less bit cores. The rest of them is pretty much the same. It's got 2 GB of RAM, and it's actually pretty snappy. While you're multitasking, you will barely see that it has a 2 GB of RAM because with the vanilla Android built in, everything is very snappy, and I was really happy with the performances. It seems like there has been an issue where the performance isn't as good as they wished it to be, but after a few updates, now it's running Android 6.0.1 with the latest Android security patch, and it's actually very snappy. I like how it works. The display itself is good with the accurate color levels, but the black is a little bit washed out. So when you're looking at the ambient display, just like that, it's not exactly beautiful when you're looking in the dark because you tend to look at some leaks from the lightings around the backlights. So it's not exactly the best display, but I would say that it's pretty good. And the DPI setting is higher than normal, so you will see a lot more content considering that it's got a full HD resolution. This seems like all the Nexus devices. I compared it with my old Nexus 5 back in 2 years ago, and it shows a lot more content. It does scrabble a little bit when you're looking at some not purely stock design apps, but overall it works just fine. The rear camera can be launched by the 2 taps of the power key. That's the Android Marshmallow thing, and the quality is actually not that bad. So you can just take a photo just like that, and you can scroll to get to the video, and surprisingly enough, the quality is actually not bad because the thing about the Nexus devices is that they were terrible at the multimedia. Of course, the speaker sucks here, but the quality of the photo, especially the rear camera, is okay, unless you go to the darker area where it starts to suffer. It's not as good as the flagship level device, but considering the price of this guy, this is more than $100 cheaper than even the Nexus 6P, so I guess that's okay. But the front-facing camera will kind of disappoint you. It's okay, it takes decent photos, but they sharpen it too much, at least with the built-in camera app. So you might not want to take a selfie with this guy a lot because not a lot of people prefer having sharpened selfie photo unless you're extremely proud of your skin, facial skin. They come in 2 versions, 16 and 32 GB, and it actually leaves more storage than I expected. After installing all the apps, I usually install about 5 GB of apps, and it still leaves me more than 4 GB of storage left behind, and that's actually better than most of the phones. The Android systems still take a lot of data, but I think this is an okay level for a 16 GB, but 32 gigs isn't too much expensive considering, compare them to the iPhones or the other options. So I would strongly still advise you to go to the 32 gigs model unless you're really, really going to use it lightly. And the one quick thing to notice is that there is hidden ambient light there. There's an LED notification light behind the speaker, so if you are not aware of it, there's an option to turn it on in the system right there at the sound and notification, pulse notification light, so make sure to turn that on if you haven't. And overall, I would say the Nexus 5X is a decent phone. It's a very basic phone, not in a bad way necessarily, because it's really hard to be basic in all of the areas than to just excel in some areas and be terrible in all the others. But the one catch here is that the Nexus 5X is a good basic phone, but it lacks in some important areas, especially the battery. It's got 2700 milliamps of battery, and with the original Nexus 5, the battery was already an issue by then. And this guy still suffers. 2700 milliamps isn't particularly small amount of battery, but you will only get about 2.5 hours to 3 hours of the screen on time with the full LTE coverage. This is a lot shorter than most of the competitor and about an hour and a half shorter than the Nexus 6P. One good thing at least is that it supports the fast charging via the USB Type-C port, and they generously included the fast charger, but it takes mere 2 hours to fully charge this guy, and even after waiting that 2 hours for that small 2700 milliamps battery, you'll only be able to use about 2.5 hours to 3 hours of the battery. So those are what I call the catches of this good basic phone. It does mostly okay job in most of the areas, and I could have been happy until I figured out that it sucks at the areas such as the speaker, audio quality, and the battery. And if a phone is bad in those areas, especially the battery, I can't really say that this is a good basic phone. This is a basic phone that terribly fails in some very important areas. It was this close to be a perfect basic phone, but it failed. There are a lot of good alternatives around there. Although I really like the pure vanilla look and performance of the Nexus, I would have to advise you to go for the other alternatives. Very sadly, Nexus 5X isn't exactly a phone that I can recommend. So that's pretty much it for the Nexus 5X. Even at the price right now, you should go for some others. Thank you always for watching. You can meet us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. And sorry about reviewing this guy late, but again, better late than never, right? Right. We'll see you guys later. Stay tuned and ciao.